Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to Dome Podcast. And I'm your host, Hatim Abdissalaam. And today I'm joined with a special guest all the way from Canada. My guest is Brother Salim Omar. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Salim.
Welcome, Salam.
How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
I must say that you look amazing in the Omani outfit.
Oh, well, mashallah, thank you. Like I said, when you're in the culture, be the culture, absorb all of it. It makes you who you are.
Alhamdulillah.
So,
So, in the beginning, Brother Salim, tell me a little bit about your background so that our audience can get to know you better. Your childhood, how was it in the beginning, your family, and so on.
okay. So I was born in the UK.
Yes.
Both my parents were studying in the UK. From there, we moved back to where my father originated from, which was from Uganda, East Africa. My mother had come from Spain to the UK also to study. So we had primarily spent a few years in the UK, and then to Uganda, and then through the uprising of the Idi Amin military regime and the expelling of foreigners, we were part of that group.
So you moved
So-
back to the UK.
So we came back to the UK, and then from the UK, my father had a small job opportunity in Kuwait. We were there for a year. I could only remember very few bits and pieces of that event.
So it means also in Uganda, you were very young at that time. You have no
Yeah.
memory of Uganda.
I have a few memories. One being at a market playing a little drums, singing a Swahili song for the locals. That's one that seems to come up occasionally in family gatherings. But other than that, just a few little spots. Maybe remembering some of our caretakers in the home. They would make our
How
meals.
old were you when
I
you
would
were
have been
in Uganda?
in about five,
Okay, very young.
6 years old.
Yeah.
So not a lot of memory there of those events, but just the stories that my father and my mother
Tell you
tell
about
tell us
Uganda.
about getting out of the country, working our way through Egypt and out
To Kuwait.
to Kuwait, and then from there we ended up coming back to the UK, and then UK to Canada. So the arrival into Canada was I was about almost 6 years old at that point.
Okay, so the majority of your childhood was in Canada.
Yeah.
Whereabout in Canada?
So we originally from Toronto to Woodstock, London, KW area, Kitchener-Waterloo, and then
Is it on the French side or the
no, it's in
English side?
Ontario. So it's
Ontario.
in the southwestern part of Ontario, close to Toronto, closer to the Great Lakes, along the border of the U.S. Canada, on the northern part of the lakes. So that area primarily was probably German, Scottish, Dutch type groupings that settled there. Very few pockets of my understanding of Muslims or even people from India, Pakistan at that time. I know going to grade school.
But there were very little immigrants to Canada at that
Very
time,
few,
right?
very few at that point, from my understanding. Majority were German, British, and Scottish, from what I can remember.
So how was school being, a child from a Muslim background, born and raised as a Muslim, and then you went to public schools. So how was that experience?
So the initial obviously was the name.
You have a different name.
Unless you were a common biblical name
Yes.
that was maybe common in a Christian household. The name was awkward for them to
Although
pronounce
you
it.
look like them, you look Caucasian.
You look like them, but you would pronounce your name to them, and it's a tongue, maybe a bit of a tongue twister, or the thought process has to be there in order to pronounce it correctly. So it would get short formed once in a while, or a nickname would be made up fairly quickly.
But they didn't ask you about, the name, where you're coming from, why are you different, and
You would get, from what I can recollect, with some of the closer friends that I made that lived in close proximity to our house.
yes,
Yeah, you would first thing would be your name. The second thing, of course, we are cooking. We cook with spices. It's
the cuisine is
the
different.
cuisine is different, and they would say, "Why do you smell like that? What's this smell?" And you would have to explain, well, we cook with different spices. We don't just use salt, pepper, and ketchup.
Yes,
Like maybe a majority of the households would do, or maybe just some onions would be their add-on to their meal to give it some flavor
yes,
or taste, maybe a bit of garlic or something. So I would get that quite a bit, and it would go sometimes even to the negative, where they would associate you with a different group, maybe Indians or Pakistanis or whatever.
So would
the
they
case
say
may
that,
be.
like, go back to your country and
Yeah, of
things
course.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah. As things, as kids got older, I think when we got into adolescent puberty stage, this is where boys would be a little, they can be a little bit more aggressive or irrational.
Yeah.
So there were quite a few confrontations that I had, physical ones, with kids in the neighborhood, where you're a bit different. Maybe you look a bit different. Maybe your dad's color of his skin different. And then maybe there's some incidents maybe in the news. I was too young. I didn't really follow the political side of things.
Yes.
But you did get groups that would corner me somewhere in the neighborhood coming from school, and then you would get a bit of a physical beating, and as a if you want to revert back to Islam here, we're to be calm people. We were always given we were a nation of calm until we were given the approval to become violent in history.
Yes.
So I think for me, I was a very quiet, very introverted individual. I kept to myself, but put in those type of situations where you have to try and defend yourself for something that you are, your identity. It was my mother who approached me one day when I came home, scuffed up a little bit, and said, "You have to learn to defend yourself. You can't let them do that to you." So I learned slowly from one of my cousins a little bit of martial arts, and to keep this part of it.
I hope you didn't do a lot of damage.
No, there wasn't a lot, but it was sometimes aggression is put upon you that you have to do something, otherwise
It will continue.
it will continue, and it could get worse, and then maybe something even worse than maybe a bruise or something. It could be it could be something even more serious.
Brother Salim, we're in the holy month of Ramadan, and it's an amazing experience to fast, especially with the dominant Muslim population. But back home in Canada, how is it like in Ramadan, with Muslims being the minorities in Canada?
Well, I'll speak. Let me just speak for maybe the last 10 years. This 10-year span.
Yes.
Obviously, Islam has become more recognized because of the increase of awareness in social media, the news, even just Canada becoming even a greater melting pot, and an increase in Muslims in the country, and even a larger group of reverts. So the one thing we miss, and I've always told my father, because my father opened a masjid in Owen Sound where they
MashaAllah.
reside. You know, he's always asked if we could have the adhan playing over a speaker in the town, and unfortunately, there's some rules in place that don't allow that type of
Religious practices.
religious practice or noise disturbance, or however they want to categorize it. So that's something that coming here is like a rush to the blood. It's the audible that we miss. It's we live in silence in a way, where the adhan is done inside the building. It's quiet. There's no external audible out there for us to call us together. We rely on a clock or a watch or something, whereas here,
This is something to ponder, especially when we as Muslims in the Middle East, where Islam is the dominant religion, we take it for granted, all of these things. We don't pay attention, and we don't consider it something that important. It becomes part of the routine. And this is unfortunate, and it's good to hear the perspective of people such as yourself, and then it reminds us of the privileges that we have.
Yeah.
You know, where other Muslims don't have the same privilege. Now, I understand that you're a firefighter, and you have a story behind you being a firefighter. You worked in a different profession, and then after 22 years of service, you decided that you're going to become a firefighter. What's the story behind that, Brother Salim?
Well, that dates back quite a few years. I was 18, just finishing high school. Primarily what a close group of us friends would do was go for dinner. And then everybody the next day at that time was leaving for university and college. We were out for dinner. A friend of mine went to get the vehicle from the parking lot, which was parked across a double lane road, and was unfortunately struck by a speeding vehicle. The driver was impaired, and
the driver was impaired.
So yeah, the impact threw her about 103 feet down the road. Severe head trauma, some midsection injuries.
So you guys were in the restaurant?
Yeah, we were in the restaurant.
And you saw it, or you heard
We heard the noise.
Yeah.
And obviously at that point we exited. This restaurant is very close to a hospital, and is very close to a local fire station in that area. So the amount of times was within a 1 or 2 minute
they arrived
time that they arrived. And you know, obviously people get into, when it's a close friend or family, trauma kicks in. And I just watched it. Whatever took seconds or minutes.
Trying to save him.
Yeah. So it was save her. So it was in this case what we call it is a pack and go. It's a very severe trauma, injury, bodily injuries, life-threatening injuries. So pack and go, which is board them, strap them in, get them in a ambulance, and then transport them to the appropriate hospital.
Unfortunately, your friend did not make it.
Unfortunately not. Severe head trauma from the impact. It took her life. So
what happened next? What decision? What happened next? What decision did you take from that point on?
Well, what I will say is watching the individuals coming out of the truck doing what they had to do in that type of incident, even though this is now almost 38, 39 years later, it's like a slow movie that
You still recall
that
what's
still plays
happening
through my head.
Yes.
You know, I can visually see the faces. I can still hear the sounds, and still be almost out of body in a way.
Yes.
And you know, if I now fast forward, you know, now almost
40 years.
I've been in these types of situations with individuals like
but
this.
After the incident, you carried on with your life and you had a different profession.
Well, yeah, I had several different jobs. We have a family business.
Mm-hmm.
My father's had a business for 40 years, you know, dealing with Honda
Yes.
in Canada. So very successful that way, and we're blessed that way. So working with this, helping the family businesses, and also always trying to find your way, you know,
So something
your own
inside,
independence.
something inside you was
Yeah, you always have to. You're
was
trying
a
to find your
calling.
independence.
Yeah.
What's your purpose? No
Yeah.
different, you know, in a professional way,
Yeah.
and obviously, like you said, you know, incorporating Islam. You're trying to figure out yourself as well as a individual.
So after 20 years or more, something kicked in. A voice inside you told you that you no longer want to continue doing what you're doing, and you want to pursue this way in life, which is firefighting, because of the incident that happened to your friend.
Yeah, it's life changing. You know, when the mind is traumatized by a loss, a great loss, irrational thoughts come into play. What is your purpose? You know, I think what we all come to find professionally, what is your purpose here?
Yes.
You know, as an individual in society, and then also that will incorporate into your personal spiritual life. You know, what are we practicing? Why do we do the rituals we do? What is the meaning behind them? And how do we grow, or how does it make us grow as we get older? So the me changing careers at a very late stage in life. I was
40, right?
40 years old. I decided to close a personal business, tell my family I'm basically non-existent in a way, and study, because I was an average person in school. My grades were average. I was probably a late bloomer, as they would call it nowadays. I didn't have the mature capacity or the mindset to focus on what maybe some children could do at half my age or even younger. So, but there was something in me that said, you know, as the story goes, I didn't want to be an old man, maybe sitting in a chair, weak and feeble, and know that I didn't follow the full purpose of my life.
Was it easy to get into the profession of firefighting, especially that you're in the age of 40, you need to be fit, you need to have the mindset and the sacrifice that you are going to be on the front line, you know, risking your life to save other people's life. All of that, you know, shift in your mindset. What was going on?
Well, it was a late night in one of my offices. Again, it's this is where everything comes together. I'm 40 years old. I've lived a Muslim in a Western environment.
Yes.
You have there's opportunities where you can slack, where we can, we don't have to do a fajr now. Maybe we'll catch it, we'll mix it with zuhr, or we'll do fajr, zuhr, and asr together.
Yes.
We didn't have, even though my father was very strict, but then sometimes not around because, he's at work.
Yes.
We're at home. Both parents working. You're trying to create a new beginning in a new country and a new life, and so everybody's busy. So there's less attention to
the children.
But we did still have rules. I mean, if something went wrong, I knew my father would discipline us or my mother would discipline us. But you still had that opportunity to slack.
Especially in a Western environment where the majority are non-Muslims, your friends,
of course, your friends,
colleagues, and so on.
Yeah, your friends. There's no structure. There's no community. It's a very broken community. You have, you'd have different religious groups: atheists, Christians. So everybody's doing their own thing. And Canada's it's a busy country. It's not a spiritually based country. It's based on work.
Yes.
And distraction. It's not, it doesn't have the what I call Islam is a lifestyle. We live a lifestyle. The Quran teaches us a lifestyle, how we live, not only during the day, but, what we do in different situations in life, marriage, or how we deal with our elders, or how we deal with personal disagreements in families, or how we deal with wills, or how we deal with different members of our family, or the respect structure, or the rituals structure of the day. This is all in disarray. Very, and then not enough masjids around. We're here a 5-minute walk.
You can be at the mosque.
You can be in the mosque. There, it's across. You got to drive half an hour sometimes.
So how did Islam affect your new career, or how did your career be impacted by you being a Muslim?
Well, I'll have to say, getting back to the first day, it was, I understood my faith, and then I understood where I wanted to go, and I had to I had to ask. And what are we always told? If we ask, right?
Yeah.
Ask for what we want.
Yes.
Allah will
respond to
you.
Yes.
So this journey was spiritual. It was.
In what way was it spiritual?
Well, it made you understand that you're just a servant. You're somebody that is given, life. Now, firefighters, we deal with life-threatening situations. We see a loss of life. It's regular. It becomes almost mundane to the mind, where people will. We see a deceased, an overdose, suicide, maybe in a vehicle accident. We do what we have to do in that parameter of time, and then we have to let it go.
There's a misconception that people who are in this field, like the paramedics or the firefighters, they are numb to the idea of trauma. They no longer feel it becomes just another incident. Is that true?
It can. There are individuals. We all have safety mechanisms, how we deal with things, and those mechanisms that you have are from what you are, your identity. Again, possibly your faith, your time of life. If you have children, your coping mechanisms.
So if you talk about, let's say, colleagues who are non-Muslims, how do they deal with this trauma? And how do you deal with this trauma as a Muslim?
Well, if I speak for what I see or what I hear, there can be conceptions out there that people will use some type of a substance,
Like
or
alcohol or drugs.
alcohol, or maybe they need sleeping pills. They can't sleep. The trauma, the thoughts go through their minds. You know, maybe they need time off work. Some of them take a little bit of leave so that they can try and reconstruct their mindset back to where it needs to be on those front lines. So for myself, of course, Islam, we know no alcohol, we know no drugs. We have a faith. We know who we are, where we came from, right? We know we've known
And we have
struggles.
the tools to
Oh, yeah,
release
of
that
course.
tension, like
You do.
prayer,
Of
like
course.
supplication,
Yeah.
like reciting the Quran.
Writing.
All of these things
Exactly.
help you release
Yes.
that tension.
Even on scene, there are multiple times that I made it a special. I start the coping mechanism right away. Once we have gotten to the point where our training and our what we need to do for this individual stops, I do a prayer for this family, the individual that has lost their life. Not only for I feel it helps me because it gives me the comfort
Yes.
and the knowing that we are human. We are life isn't forever. Life can be taken.
Were you ever worried that one day you will go to work and not come back?
That's always part of the career. Does it happen a lot in our department? Thankfully not. But you have to have that mindset because it keeps you sharp. Like you were saying, if you become too laid back,
Yes.
you don't keep your skills up to where they should be. Your knowledge base on things in a place where they have to be, because we react in seconds. You're dealing with, is this person with no pulse? Are they dead? Do they have a pulse? What am I going to do with them next?
Yes.
What is the environment that I'm working in? Is it safe for me? Is it safe for them? Is it safe for the people I'm working with? So you have to keep these types of your environment awareness
Were there
very high.
any incidents that really touched your heart and you found it very difficult to overcome these challenges?
Well, I'll have to say, I mean, through my childhood, I've dealt with losses of friends, losses of relatives, over time. So you build up this what we call maybe a war chest.
Yes.
of feelings and loss that will stay with you for the rest of your life. These types of things, when you deal with trauma, they don't disappear. They just hide away, and that's that balance in life. So getting into this career, early on, I dealt with people that were having car crashes under the influence of alcohol.
Yes.
And I have to go care for them. So just imagine one of your greatest losses in life that changed your outlook on life, and you go up to a vehicle with an individual that is doing the same thing.
Subhanallah.
The only slight positive part of this was they hit a telephone pole, instead of another a human being. And I have to go to this individual that is completely intoxicated, and I have to deal with them in a professional, compassionate, empathetic, professional way. And in my mind, I am saying that Shaitan has taken you over. The society that we live in allows or promotes substance usage to society, and we already know that a portion of society can't handle it.
Yes.
That's why we're given the rules. There's more bad than good
Then good.
in a lot of things. We're taught this, so we live it. We see it. It's what we call it in a way, and it's a cost of doing business. It's big money
Yes.
in the West for sales, but the collateral damage is life. As one of the
Broken
probably the
families.
worst. Broken families. Broken careers. Everything. There's so much, and nobody what do we track? We track maybe a few of the incidences, but they get shoved under the carpet.
Yeah.
Very, very, very quickly. It's not something that we worry about. Money over life.
Brother Salim, do people ask you about your faith? Whether it is colleagues at work, neighbors, or even friends, because you went through a journey of faith with its ups and downs, but the change in you must have intrigued the curiosity of people around you. So what are the things that they ask you about your faith?
Oh, well, I guess I'll talk about work because I deal with a small group of individuals, and we're it's almost it's like your second family,
Yes.
right? We spend 24 hours together on a shift, and you get every part of a person. You get their morning mood, you get their afternoon mood, their evening mood, and their night mood, and then we have to deal with whatever we deal with out in the
The
incidents, and then how everybody reacts to that kind of thing. So I think where it all starts, obviously, when I went with my new crew, the name. Again, we always go back to the name. It's not a common name.
Why do you have a different name?
What's the different name? Where does it come from? Have they Googled the name and come up with, you go, again, you tell the audience, you Google Salim Omar or even just Salim, you're going to get a big list, and primarily
of
it's gonna
Arabs
be
or Muslims
Arabs
who
or
have this
Muslims.
name, yeah.
You won't see a
Caucasian.
a Caucasian face maybe till you get to the second page or third page. So, but when I met them, obviously it's you bring it out. We don't have to hide who we are anymore. It's not something we have to be ashamed of or anything. It's now we're in a stage where primarily in big structured companies or cities or professions, you let your people know, your crews know, the individuals you work with, what your beliefs are, what they can expect, and it works both
But
ways.
in Canada, do you have an issue with Islamophobia?
Of course, you see it in the news.
From the public, meaning, on a daily basis with people that on the street, on the bus, at work, do you get like comments or harassment sometimes, or people just don't understand your values and what you stand for, and maybe sometimes they tell you go back to your country.
Yeah, you will hear that. You will hear that in a lot of contexts. I mean, now I think a lot of it goes through social media, where those types of things are done. You don't maybe at rallies, because we've dealt with incidences here on this side of the world that are impacting people that have
Yes.
moved to Canada. So we see these types of things happen at maybe somewhat organized events or even organized events where there's a clash.
Yes.
So it is still there. And I'll give you even just a personal instance. The masjid that my father and the community built. I think it was a couple of years ago. We had it vandalized.
It was vandalized?
It was vandalized. So now, if I can't remember exactly what they wrote on the walls or what they used some type of red paint or tomatoes but they vandalized the building. So we were fortunate with to find out some evidence on the property that led us to a store where some of these supplies were bought, and then cameras were used in order to find out the individual, and then the individual was apprehended by the police. My father being on the board and everything, they come. What are we going to do? Are we going to charge him? Are we going to have some type of disciplinary actions? And I can remember my dad saying, like, they should just be educated. There should be some type of education system, To
so tell them that we are not the enemy. We're not different. We're just like you.
And even if we are different, why aren't we in a somewhat harmony? Agree on some differences. If you're willing to look at our differences, we're willing to look at your differences, and
coexist.
That's what Allah tells us. He will let us know at the end where we went wrong maybe in life, or what guidance we didn't have, or where we went off the rail.
Salim, we met the first time a few days back in a Quran competition.
Yes.
And I assume that it is your first Quran competition that you attend?
Yeah, so this one was an invite that we were invited to. Apparently now was the 21st year, which was very very exciting to hear that this has been going on with this family for 21 years.
The Adam family.
Sons. Yes.
Adam's sons Quran competition has been going on for a very long time. And so what was your impression about the competition? You attending such a thing for the first time in Ramadan in a Muslim country. What did you feel?
It'll be a pinnacle. One of the things I'll remember from this trip. It's nice to see this 21 years. I believe it is 21 years.
Yes.
First of all, it was a gracious invitation. To see something like this been going on for 21 years, to see the participant board of how many individuals had come in and participated in the event, and the hard job that the panel had to have to try and pick
who's the best.
Who's the best.
Yes.
And I think anybody that has the capacity to memorize the Quran and recite it, that's a special gift Allah has given you. And I think it's hard to. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a judge to have to pick what makes one better, because if you're able to recite the Quran and have a good understanding, you're special. So, and now, I'm one for recitation. I love the sound of Arabic. I've listened to some seminars on the language and the dialect and everything, and how everything blends. And I have, on my experiences, some of the recitations, even the adhans, have made me tear. I've literally had tears drip from my eyes during Salah. So, again, it's just part of the...
Now that is an experience. And then you have another experience, which is visiting the city of Mecca for Umrah for the very first time in your life. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah.
So what made you decide after all these years to visit Mecca?
So it's actually twice in 1 year. I've been blessed that with a career, with the time, in order to actually, I went twice within 1 year.
1 year.
Within 1 year. So
yes.
I went in December, and I January. So just over a year time period. One was very fast. I did one trip very quick. We did it in about 2.5 days. And it was my first time in Oman. I arrived. I find out, unfortunately, that one of my cousin's close friends had passed. We ended up having to go to a funeral,
Yes.
and then work our way back to the airport, fly out, and start this unbelievable journey of going to the most special place.
Take
on
us
earth.
through the journey. What did you feel, when you were putting on the garment, the ihram, and then seeing the Kaaba for the first time? What was it like? I'm sure there are a lot of Muslims around the
Yeah.
world who don't have the privilege of visiting the city of Mecca,
Yeah.
and they are wondering what it feels like seeing the Kaaba.
Oh, well, I mean, it's obviously, just the flight there it was surreal. We, you go back to verses in the Quran that tell us of where we are going has been built,
Yes.
how it was built, who built it, the destruction, the reconstruction, the how the people came back together, and then what it has become today, which is, I think now is they're trying to get 5+ million
Yes.
pilgrims within the limits. So arriving, we arrived late at night. Obviously, we tried to find some accommodations and get those in place, but we ended up in a very prestigious hotel on a 47th floor. So
MashaAllah.
so
You had the view
we had
of the Kaaba.
we had the view the view that you would want everybody to have.
Subhanallah.
Even though I want to say it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you're there. It's absolutely. I'll always say there's no words that I can't put. There's no words that are good enough
To describe that
as
moment.
that can equal the experience of. I was silent. I was looking and silent. The thought process in my mind was still.
You blocked everything else.
Everything, because I'm here. This is real. I'm witnessing this. I'm living this. All in slow motion. And you're trying to still create an understanding of what it took to get there. How many years?
Is there anything in particular that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you were there in front of the Kaaba?
Patience.
Patience for?
Patience for life. Patience for life's process. And maybe even have patience with me in a way, because we're not all perfect. We all don't maybe follow our guidelines sometimes
Yes.
as well as we should.
Yes.
We get relaxed.
We're humans.
We're human, yeah. So we'll miss, or we'll say, we can. There's times where I do a lot of driving, a lot of traveling, and it's, pull the car over and pray. But why are you going 20 more minutes or 30 more minutes to get home and pray? Sometimes it's more convenient. I can wash, but nowadays I can have a bottle of water in the car. I can have
A prayer mat.
Prayer mat in my car. I can even use something, and I can stick to the lifestyle and the parameters that we've been given.
Yeah. So what did that journey add to your life? You know, what did it add?
Well, I will say this. For me, it was, you know, I've almost finished reading the Quran now again this Ramadan. I have a couple of chapters left, but I always try to get through it every Ramadan.
Yes.
And then I try to get through it a couple of times through the year. And sometimes you read and you're always thinking, did I read this before? Or it always seems something new, or it comes across differently.
Yes.
Because you're a different person every time you read it. But getting back after the trip and Umrah, you know, what stuck with me was my father says, you know, you were invited. Not only were you invited, you were given Islam with your spirit,
Yes.
but also you had been invited to go. And I had to think back, because you think about going. We always think, everybody, like you were saying earlier, to all the audience, there is such a almost a panic in life that even though we understand it's a pillar of Islam, and if we can get there, we get there. But there's provisions that Allah gives us in life that equal Umrah or going for Hajj. So as much as we want to physically get there, we get there in other ways, and that's the beauty of Islam. We're given these types of things.
What would you like to say to the Muslims who are indulged in life and career and family and business and everything else except their faith after you going through this journey?
Well, we're told life is joy and amusement. I mean, now at 57, you know, with a bit of a slowdown in my career, I get to think more. And I think what happens in the West, we're too busy. Life's too busy. Here, it's a little bit, it's structured. Obviously, it's a structured lifestyle here. So you have a little bit more time to overlook what your life is like.
What your priorities are.
What your priorities are, because they're instilled in the lifestyle.
Yes.
Right? Again, Islam is a lifestyle. We live it daily, we live it monthly, we live it on timelines all the time. It's a very healthy structure. Whereas outside of it, it's more of a watered down, diluted lifestyle. Very hard. It seems it gets very hard to stick to the regimen of being thorough in your practices. So, you know, as we grow, as our careers grow, as our families grow, I think what people need to do, and if you're a person that, you know, I'm too busy, I shouldn't take the time, look at the structure that we're given. You know, it's a very simple structure. Break it down into the simplicity of things. Our timelines for prayers, you know, we have opportunities to put two together if we need to, depending on travel or anything. You know, take the time, a little bit of time, to make sure that you are giving your faith, because at the end, as the Quran tells us, you know, it's not our children, it's not going to be our parents, it's not going to be our careers, it's not going to be a lot of deeds we may think are important in life. That's not what it's going to get us to the hereafter. It's our prayers, it's our knowledge, it's our what we've been given as our lifestyle to follow, because this is a short period of time. We sometimes think a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 50, 60, 100 years is a lot of time, but it's not.
Now, Salim, after spending 57 years in the West, do you see yourself and your family residing in a place like Oman, in a majority dominant Muslim country?
Yes, yes, of
You
course.
think you can make the shift?
Yeah, I think as my careers end in Canada, I'm starting new career. I'm starting new careers here. I'm trying
Alhamdulillah.
to get my established a business visa. I have some plans in place. Some research. I'm on a 2-year research business visa. I will go into something that I'm familiar with and have a lot of experience with, my fire and safety. That will be a key business to look at. I love hearing the adhan every day.
Alhamdulillah.
It's I'm a very audible person. I always grew up that way, where it's very key to tone.
But why settle in Oman and not any other Muslim country? Any reason in particular?
Oman is the last jewel. If you look at it culturally, business, the modernization of the Middle East that's been happening over the last even 10, 20 years. I've been fortunate. I've done Saudi, I've done Abu Dhabi, I've gone to Dubai. I've seen the changes,
Yes.
and then coming here and I see the changes that are coming here. Oman is 20, 30 years behind the rest of these countries. We're modernizing in a way where I see parallels with what I saw with my children growing up. They're brought into seeing facilities that do things or carry products that don't align with our faith or beliefs. Social media takes over. We have cell phones instead of religious books.
Yes.
We have characters in our children's minds that are make-believe from TV, and they don't know. They wouldn't be able to give you the lineage of prophets and messengers in the Quran. These are the things that I see as an older man, a father with children from the West, and I see it melting here. Of course, Oman and the Middle East needs progression.
Yes.
They want to move into the being modern, but at what sacrifice?
Mentioning this, we noticed recently that a lot of Western families, not necessarily being Muslims, move to the Middle East or to Muslim countries to raise their families, because it's no longer a suitable environment for them in the West. Do Muslims also find the same challenge in Canada, where it's difficult to raise your kids in an Islamic way, especially with the issue of syllabus, with the gender issue and other challenges that are there?
Of course, children of today in the West are exposed to subject matter that is beyond what their mental capabilities are of comprehending. And they are taught or brought into ways into their environments, their classrooms, or maybe a club that they belong to or something, in a way that makes it kid friendly.
Yes.
So we're grooming. It's called grooming. It's been done in society in other ways with different types of groups, but we're normalizing things that we don't believe in and we don't follow. But then we also have to have we're taught we have to have respect.
Yes.
We do. We have to respect other people. I'm not responsible for your life. You're not responsible for what I do in my life. We're taught this. We have to have a respect, and you have to coexist. But if we're given a choice, now we're given a choice. We see We're seeing the other side. We're seeing the Middle East as a option to leave. Because why do we want to expose a growing, developing mind to distortions that aren't in our favor?
Especially when these ideologies are being imposed on your children. It is not something that is a choice. You either comply with what is going on, or you might get into, accountability with the authorities, and they might deprive you from your children and so on. So it's somehow a threat to the family living in that environment. And that's why people are taking it very seriously now. A lot of Muslims are making hijrah, migration to Muslim lands, because they want to preserve their families. And may Allah be with them, and may Allah assist them in this move. They migrated to the West to find a living, but now maybe it's about time to migrate back to the Muslim country, because career and prosperity is not everything. Your family comes, the values of your family comes before everything else.
Of course, yeah. As you when you become a parent, of course, our responsibility is our children, and we have to get them to a stage in life that they can carry on their own. And if we don't instill the values and the knowledge in order to give them a good, healthy, spiritual life, they're lost.
Yeah.
They're lost.
And it's a loss for us as parents. It's a loss for us.
It's a loss. We we're, as a parent, we have a heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
And we have to give that chance. So,
Brother Salim, any last advice to your fellow citizen men and women in Canada and in the Western world when it comes to your faith? What would you like to tell them?
I keep it very simple. And I just had a friend yesterday that I was speaking with. And, I keep telling them I'm going to be going to break my fast. We're dealing with a time difference. I'm up early. He says, you barely sleep. I notice you're only sleeping 2-3 hours. I said, well, yes, I pray at night. I read at night, and then I'm up very early to do this, read, pray again.
Yes.
So, he says, like, is it difficult? And I said, difficult in what sense? Do you mean difficult? He goes, like, is it hard? I said, I've told you before, it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
And if you want to have an understanding, just read the Quran. It's very simple. Take it and read it. You will find all the religions that we talk about or that are talked about.
Yes.
Right? We have all the prophets, all the messengers are there.
And our religion is very logical.
It's very logical.
It instructs you to do things that are good for you.
Of course. And I will say, at least now, children are exposed to even more of religion and different religions, and then the conflict between all these different religions. But just take it. If you're going to read a Charles Dickens book or somebody else's book, why don't you read the greatest book creation ever that has been given to mankind, and read the simple rules, the simple guidelines, the simple revelations.
To educate yourself.
Educate yourself, of course. Yeah, educate yourself. It's not a hard read. I think once you read it, then I think it gets maybe a little more difficult, because your interests are piqued so much. You're gonna want to know every story. You're going to want to know every battle. You want to
and that's what happened during the crisis of Gaza. A lot of Europeans started reading the Quran Most of them were atheists, but they grabbed the Quran. They wanted to understand why the people of Gaza are resilient, why are they holding on to their faith despite everything that is happening to them. And once they read and understood, and some of them chose the path of Islam as a way of life. And we encourage everyone to, to pick up a Quran and just read it.
Just read it. It's just that simple. Avoid the social media postings or remarks.
Just read about Islam from the source.
Read one chapter, and I think you will continue the next 29.
Brother Salim Omar, it was a pleasure meeting you and having you on the show. I hope you have a safe journey back home, and hope to see you living in Oman soon, inshallah, with your family. May Allah bless you and preserve you, and take care of yourself.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much for having me.
Dear brothers and sisters, thank you very much for watching Dome Podcast. I was your host, Hatim Abdissalaam. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.